Ghosts, goblins, thieves, and witches, it is time for All-Hallows Eve. So normally I do videos on more generic historical things, such as, history of peoples, places, and events. So normally I don't do holidays, but I want to, get more in habit of doing such things. So today I'm doing a video on Halloween. And Halloween is a holiday that has become very popular in the United States and around Europe. It is very popular out here in America, and it has an interesting history. Now, what is exactly Halloween, or what is exactly the history of Halloween or All Hallows Eve? Well, grab yourself a cup of coffee, and let's talk about some history. Hi, my name is Brandon Foster, and I am primarily a Germanic historian focusing on the histories of the Germanic peoples, which includes France, England, Germany, and Scandinavia, going from the 1st century to today. Now, that includes a lot of different things, and one of those things is Halloween. So, what is exactly Halloween? Halloween is a modern celebration of a couple different ancient celebrations that's kind of been modernized, secularized, and kind of just really commercialized is another way of putting it. So Halloween started back in the we're not exactly sure when the holiday really began, the original version. But the modern version, which is what I want to start with, and we'll work our way backwards. The modern version of Halloween started kind of around the 1920s as we know it. It was before that, back when the migration period was going on to America. The Irish were coming in during the late 19th century, so the 1850s and on, really. And that was because of the potato famine. So the potato famine was raging in Ireland, and there was mass famine and mass starvation in Ireland. So a lot of them jumped the boat and came to the United States. When they got here, naturally brought with them a lot of their own customs and their own celebrations. One of those being a celebration, and I'm going to butcher the name of it, it's Samhain. And I'm not sure, I think the pronunciation is Samhain. I'm going to say it the really bad way. Sorry to any Irishmen or Celts, people that speak more of the Gaelic tongues. Please forgive me. So Samhain was a celebration of kind of the thinning of the spiritual wall. They believed around October 31st, November 1st, the wall between the living world and the spiritual world would thin, therefore allowing evil spirits to come in. And this would bring much devastation, and they would become very afraid. So what they would do to appease these spirits that were either looking for evil or just looking to prank, depending on when and where, what they would do is they would paint their faces black or with ash and stuff, and then they would dress themselves up in animal skins. And this was meant to kind of fear off or make the spirits afraid or appeased. There's also some theories that they would put out food to appease the spirits, and that would eventually lead to trick-or-treating, stuff like that. So that is where the story kind of came, but I meant to talk about the modern version. So back around as this group came, the Irish, they started bringing again their customs, and their customs of Samhain would then mingle with the precursing American version. And so with it came the prankster and this kind of spiritual aspect, the superstitious realm. And local leaders in America didn't like exactly the influence that this was happening on the young people and children. So they started encouraging families to do more community celebrations. So they would have parades, and people would get together and exchange treats and candies and stuff like that. And it was just a fun time for the whole community. As that kind of faded out, and especially as pranks still continued, local leaders and families wanted other ways to encourage the celebration without the bad part. These pranks sometimes got pretty out of hand. So then they started to encourage, in the 1920s to 1950s, they started encouraging families to do more at-home things. This is where people would start having candy at their house. So children would come to the home, get candy, and leave. Now, the trick-or-treat idea was if you were trying to stop the trick part, which was the pranking, the vandalism, stuff like that, you could offer a treat. So if a kid got the treat, the kid wouldn't do the trick. In modern times, we think of these tricks as harmful little things, and I'm sure some of the times they were, but many times they weren't. So that is kind of the modern version. That has kind of continued to increase. It became more commercialized, and the more that, superheroes became a thing, Disney became a thing, and other types of commercialized groups, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a fun word to say. Those became big other things that kids could dress up as, and as in candy became more commercialized, the holiday became cemented as we see it today. But there's one other aspect that I want to talk about when it comes to Halloween. So I briefly mentioned Sondheim and the influence it had on Halloween, and it's kind of the more ghoulish side where we get the dead and the ghosts and stuff like that. And again, we don't really know when Sondheim started. It was a Celtic holiday, and we've known about it for centuries. It was something that the Christian church was encountering for long periods after they came into Britain, and as the Roman Empire kind of slowly withdrew. Sondheim was still there, and the Christian church knew about Sondheim. But during the 8th century, so centuries after the Roman Catholic Church became a thing, the Roman Empire left England, this is long after that. So around the year 800 in the 8th century, so 700s to 800s, 8th century, the Catholic Church decided that they wanted to make a holiday around that time that would celebrate a Catholic accepted holiday. And so they chose All Saints' Day. So All Saints' Day was November 1st, and it was to celebrate the saints and the martyrs of the Catholic Church. So, not a bad idea. Eventually, after November 2nd, it would become All Souls' Day, and that was to celebrate just anyone that had passed. It was a time where you could celebrate the loved ones that had gone on. So we had All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on November 2nd. Well, most people like to celebrate the night before as well. We have, Christmas, Christmas Eve. You have Thanksgiving. Some people do stuff on Thanksgiving Eve. That was not as popular. But the big thing was that the night before All Saints' Day, October 31st, started becoming a day of celebration. So November 1st was known as All-Hallows Eve, or Day. So then, the night before, just like Christmas Eve, became All-Hallows Eve. And then Hallows Eve just kind of molded into Halloween, and that is kind of where we get the name today. But that is when the version of the Catholic Church and the Sondheim, over the centuries, would kind of meld into this one celebration as the Celts became Christianized, but they didn't want to give up their cultural practices, nor should they, so they kind of blended in these two holidays. And that's really where we get the idea of Halloween. Halloween is today not a pagan holiday, nor is it a Christian holiday. We do have two Christianized holidays during this time. In this video, we're discussing All Saints' Day, and in my next video, which is going to come out with this one, they're going to be a two-part, I'm going to talk about Reformation Day, which is a holiday that kind of started around centuries later and was meant to be a good time to celebrate the Reformation, which also happened on October 31st, though many centuries after All Saints' Day. So, this is the history of All-Hallows Eve, Halloween, All Saints Day, All Souls Day, all wrapped up in one big, fun, happy kind of story, I guess. So, if you enjoy this type of content, and if you enjoy history of Germanic peoples, histories of people, places, and things, and just history in general, please leave a like, subscribe. I would love to hear what you have to think about anything about Halloween. Do you think it is a celebration that we should do today, especially if you are on the more conservative Christian side? I would love to hear. Or if you're on the other side and you think there's absolutely nothing wrong and that we should be able to celebrate how we want during this time. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Thanks, and have a great day. Peace.